Welcome to Pioneer Portraits. I am your host, Darla Miller. Join me as we dig into the university experience of Malone students and alumni and hear more about what challenges, encourages, and inspires them. Well, welcome to Pioneer Portraits, where today we are talking to two of our RAs who are resident assistants. We have Emma Shaw from Cleveland, Ohio, and Andrew Willett from Louisville, Ohio with us today, and they are both serving here as resident assistants. So, Emma, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell me your class and your major and anything else you want to tell me about what you're studying?
Yeah, I am a junior, the class of 2025. I'm a nursing major. I also have a minors in honors, so I'm in the honors program, about to start writing my thesis. And I'm an RA on Blossom 3 North, and I love it.
Blossom 3 North, Wonderful. How about you, Andrew?
Yeah, so I'm a fifth-year senior. I'm an education major. And it's integrated social studies is my, wheelhouse of things I want to teach. And I also have a history minor, and I'm an RA in Foxhall.
Wonderful. What made you guys choose, and either one of you can answer, what made you choose to be an or first of all, to come to Malone? What drew you to Malone?
So I actually, all my life, attended Willoughby Hills French Church, which is an evangelical French church. It's the same exact denomination that Malone is. So I grew up hearing about Malone. Pastor Jim Davis is an alum of Malone, very well known. He was my youth pastor and is a very strong spiritual figure in my life. And if you know Jim, you know he talks about Malone about every other second. And
we like that.
Yes, absolutely. So I grew up hearing about Malone. I actually did a lot of different summer camps where Malone would come talk and visit. And I actually did summer camps where I stayed on Malone's campus, and I just absolutely loved it. Every time they would come talk, there was just something that drew me into that conversation, that I felt like I was a part of it. And so when I was choosing a college, it was pretty clear to me that I wanted to go to Malone. I knew I wanted to go into nursing, and Malone's nursing program is top notch.
In fact, I think we had 100% passage, right, this last year
on
of the NCLEX. That's amazing.
That's like unheard of. So that was really fantastic. And it's stuff like that that drew me to Malone. And I'm so glad I picked it because I love it.
Wonderful. How about you, Andrew?
So for me, I'm from the area. I'm like from 20 minutes towards Alliance. And I grew up around this area, so it was like I always drove by Malone and I'd always hear about Malone. I also went to a smaller high school. I went to St. Thomas, and we have smaller class sizes. So for me, that I knew that was something that I wanted because I'd go to bigger schools and visit, and I was like, this isn't really for me. And then I came here and visited, and I was like, wow, people are really friendly. And that was a big thing for me, because I find when there's people that want to invest in me, like, that means the world to me because, I feel cared about and not just like a number. So that was something for me that drew me. And it was also sports as well. Like, I came in, I was going to play football originally, and obviously I didn't end up doing that. So one of the coaches I knew real well, Russ Hunt, he was like, hey, we'd still like to have you here. We still think you'd be a great fit. Did you ever think about swimming in college? And I had done some swimming. And he was like, I know you can swim. I know you're a good kid. Like, I think you'd be really beneficial for our team. So I was like, you know what? Yeah. And I just liked everything else. And, that was kind of a thing that it was like God telling me, yeah, that's where you're supposed to be. So
awesome. So you're a swimmer. And Former swimmer. Oh, don't we still want you swimming? Are you no longer eligible?
I'm retired. Yeah.
Okay.
After 2 years, I retired. So.
I don't know. We have to work on that, Andrew. What other kinds of activities have you been involved in?
Sports has been a big one. Intramurals, life groups, SFOs.
What are SFOs?
So SFOs are the spiritual formation opportunities. It's like, we have small groups that some are small groups and some are larger. So like we have it's like chapel, community worship, and it's kind of one of our bigger ones. That's one of my favorites. And and it's more of like a traditional church service. And then there's like smaller life groups that are like within the dorms or around campus, and there's different topics for each, and that's something that I always enjoy. So
Wonderful. How about you, Emma? What else are you involved in?
So this year, I actually am a co-leader for Nurses Christian Fellowship, which is an SFO that meets on every other Monday. And so I get to do that, which is super fun. And I'm also a vocalist on the Celebration worship team. So I get to pour into that atmosphere as well, which I absolutely love. So,
Which we heard you last week, and it was really wonderful.
Thank you so much.
When you came to Malone, you obviously knew it was a Christian organization. So did you. How do you feel like your spiritual walk has deepened since you've been here?
Yeah, so I would definitely say a huge part of that was actually my Bible 100 class. I took it with TC, and I'm not a Bible major. I went to a small Christian high school, and I grew up in the church, so I was very familiar with it. But that class, it was my first semester of my freshman year, and it really challenged me. It really, got me thinking about a lot of big topics and what the Word of God actually says about them. And so I would say, like, that as the beginning point, my college experience has really just grown my faith because it has challenged me. And I really appreciate that about Malone. I think that we serve a wide variety of students here. And I think students that may not know the Lord will find a place here, and will find that they can learn more about that if they so choose to. But also people like me who may be a little bit more familiar with faith and the things of God, they're also able to be challenged here and to grow their faith as well. And so, yeah, I was really grateful to be a part of that class. And I just every day, just interactions with students, with faculty and staff, to be able to look back even just these past few years and be like, oh, like my faith definitely has increased. And just by being here in the presence of these people and clear people of God, it's just been a great opportunity, and I'm really grateful for that.
Wonderful. Andrew, can you answer the same question? Do you remember it?
Yeah. For me, I would say it's grown just from the people that are here. There's, like I said earlier, there's people that want to invest in me, and people that I could be like, oh, hey, what is so different about you and your walk? And I think hearing other people's journeys and the things that they've kind of overcome, and just like the way that they're in the Word or going to church and stuff like that. Like I think of Tamiko, my RD. Just some of the conversations that we've had, just kind of, to help us grow in our own faith, just like reading, and like he talks a lot about, being in the Word every day and reading, and it's just, for me, it's one of those things that I didn't realize how important that was, and I just, I think of all the people that have invested in me and taught me different things since I've been here, and people are willing to do that. They're willing to say, hey, let's have a conversation about that, instead of just like, no, you have to be doing that.
Awesome. What is your favorite thing that you've done here at Malone?
Hands down, being an RA. It is, I always tell people it's the joy of my life in this season. Yeah, I just love it so much. Yeah.
That's a great segue, because I'm about to start asking you questions about that. Andrew, how about you?
I would have to say the same thing, and just being able to invest in other people and give back to the people of the university that people have invested in me, so now it's my turn to give that back.
Okay, so let's start by talking about what are the responsibilities of a residence assistant.
Honestly, in my opinion, and probably what a lot of people would tell you, is that our number one responsibility is to cultivate community and to uphold that community for ourselves. To me, that means setting a good example of what it looks like to be a part of community. But also, the normal RA responsibility is that every weekday, one RA in the building is on duty, and you have to do some rounds on the building. And we're just checking to make sure, community guidelines are remaining in place, rules are being followed. But also, walking into doors that are open, playing games with residents, just having conversations here and there. And I think that's probably the main responsibility is to be on duty. And then there's also weekends where each RA will be on duty. And yeah, we're just there to make sure everything's going all right, that no one, needs anything, things like that.
You want to add to that, Andrew, or did she
get everything?
Right
She probably
on the head.
did. It sounded like everything.
And I think it's being relational too. I think you covered that very well.
So what would you say made you interested in being an RA? I mean, you love it, but you didn't know you were going to love it. What were things that caused you to say, I think I could do this? Because it's a lot of responsibility for you guys.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I think for me, and being an education major, I've always been very people-oriented. If you ask a lot of people that know me will say that. So for me, it was just being I think I'm also a shift supervisor at a Rite Aid too. So I think for me, it was I think that's my next step in, my education and just being involved in campus. That's something that I've always have enjoyed. So I was I think I could do that. And that was one of the things that they advertised where it was you're supposed to be able to invest in people and, be there for people in their times of need. And for me, that's something that I've always enjoyed. So when they were talking about that with what it entails to be an RA, I was I think I could do that.
I would kind of agree with that. In high school and everything, I was always doing some kind of leadership opportunity, some kind of leadership role, because like you were saying earlier, I really feel it's such a blessed opportunity to be able to pour into something that has poured so much into you. And so I knew that after my freshman year, I wanted to do something to give back to, the Malone community that has done so much for me already. And it was just the end of my first year here. And I realized that my RA, my freshman year, it was Gracie Humphreys. She was fantastic. And we had a difficult floor that year, but she just handled it with such grace. And I really think that seeing her deal with difficult things, but also being able to build community in Blossom, inspired me to become an RA and to be able to continue that kind of idea, to be able to just build up community, because that's what being an RA is all about.
So if someone were thinking, I think I would be good at building community, I think this sounds like fun, I want to invest in other people, what are the steps to become an RA? How are you chosen?
So you can always talk to one of us as an RA or talk to one of the RDs about more information on it. I know there is usually an application that comes out, I think. When is that roughly?
I think it comes out in February sometime.
It'll be in an email from Tony Schneider's or Mel Scott.
So you apply, and then are you interviewed?
Yes, it is an interesting interview process.
Can you explain a little bit, or is it top secret?
I don't think it's top secret.
I don't think so.
But basically you apply, and then the first interview process is a group interview. So everybody on campus who has applied to be an RA that year goes to this group interview. They split us up into groups, and there's different activities that you do. And so maybe I shouldn't talk about the activities. But basically, you get split into groups and you do these activities. And there's past RAs, senior RAs that are about to graduate and not be an RA anymore, and even alumni, faculty and staff that are observing all of these activities happening in the miscellaneous groups. And they're actually watching for how you interact with each other as a team, and with difficult scenarios and how you deal with that. Then a few weeks later, there's an individual interview process. So all of the women met with all of the women RDs on campus and the men with the men RDs on campus. And it's just a normal, sit down 1-on-3 or 1-on-2 interview, completely blind. You don't know anything they're going to ask you. And so I think that's pretty difficult and can be really nerve-wracking. And then a few weeks later, they put letters in our mailbox, and it either says, we would be pleased to offer you a position in this hall, or unfortunately, no. But I guarantee you, if you apply again and just kind of keep doing it, if you really have that desire to be a RA on your heart, to do the process again, because almost always, if you show that you really want to do that and you really want to be an RA, we want you here and we want you to be a part of that RA community too.
Nice. So do you guys, when you say RA community, do you guys do things individually, as a group of RAs to build up each other?
Yeah, we definitely do. Usually we have an RA social that's once a month. We also have training at we come back a little bit earlier before everybody else, and we have like professional development things, and we play some games to kind of do like team building. And then once a month when we have those like RA socials, we usually get together and play a game or, talk about, whatever could be like professional development, and, it kind of allows us to get to know each other a little bit more and just work together better.
So tell me how you tell me a problem without any names involved, a problem, and how you handled it. Or it doesn't even have to be your problem, a problem that you have heard of an RA having, and how it was handled in a good way.
Well, I will give the example of a good old-fashioned visitation violation. It happens. We get it, we're in college, whatever. I think a really important piece of handling any conflict, but this one specifically, is to really understand that, actually, we all mess up. And so I think showing grace, but still trying to, get your point across that, this isn't supposed to be happening right now, is important. And so that's how I've dealt with it personally, especially with my own residents in the past, to be able to just approach that situation with clarity and grace. And then later on, following up with that, just making sure, they're doing okay, and telling them that, nothing has changed. I don't view you any different. There is forgiveness because that's what Christ offers us. And there's grace in that too. And treating them like you would any other person, because we all mess up. So that's how I deal with conflict.
Wonderful. Can you tell me your funniest RA moment? Or your favorite RA moment?
I think my favorite would have to be one of my former residents. There was like a little pop-up, it was like a worship night in the barn, and it's something that just kind of gives me chills thinking about. And it was just, I said, hey, do you want to go to this event? So I grabbed a couple people on my floor and throughout my building, and and I guess I didn't really wrap my head around where they were at in their own walks, and I was like, hey, you guys want to go to this after dinner? We'll get dinner and we'll go down and check it out. So we ended up going down, and we were there probably for an hour, and I was like, all right, guys, well, I got to go because I've got to do some homework, and I was on duty that night too, and I left, and somebody came up to me a little bit later, and they were the next day, and they were like, hey, did you hear that so-and-so stood up and spoke and, talked about how now he wants to give his life to Christ, and, and now I see him today, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. Because if I wouldn't have invited him and said, hey, let's go to this, he would have never taken that step.
All right, give me a minute to compose myself here. If someone were to ask you, I want to be an RA, what would you say? I just don't know whether I have the capabilities. What things would you tell them that they should look for in themselves in order to do it?
One thing I would say is that, everybody is a part of this Malone community. And so you have the opportunity with just being, a student who's not an RA or, doing much of anything on campus, you have an opportunity to be an active member in this community. And you can do that without being an RA. And I think that allows people to stand out when they start the interview process, even the application process of becoming an RA. That's a lot of times what we look for. Are you involved in activities? Are you involved in your dorm life? Are you doing things that show that you want to be a part of this community? And I think that's really important. And so I would encourage people to get out there, to think about what their interests are and ask their RA or ask their CA even, what are you interested in? What opportunities are there on campus for you to get plugged into based off what you'd like? I think that would be a great starting point.
You want to add anything, Andrew?
I would kind of agree with Emma, but I also look at are you kind of a leader in the groups that you're in? Are you someone that, says to your friends that are maybe going a little too far with the joke or something, where you're like, hey, maybe we should move away from that? Like, do you lead the group that you're with, and do you have the maturity to do that, or are you someone that just kind of continues in with that? So I think that also goes with community a little bit too.
Yeah, I think you guys have to be leaders in community to bring to take care of each other.
Yeah.
We keep hearing community. And it is used often to describe the Malone experience. We talked with some alumni last week, and they used the word community. What does community mean to you, and how do you experience it here at Malone? That's a big question.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a
Andrew,
loaded
you want to
question.
jump in?
Yeah. So for me, community is the people that I'm around, whether it's, teachers or, AVI staff, or I'm thinking more of on the Malone level. It could be the guys that work in the fizz plant. It could be, the company that comes in and cleans. It's, anyone and everyone that is associated with Malone or where you're at. And they're people that are involved and willing to, be there for you, or, help you learn things, or, just be there to help you. If you're feeling down or something, just kind of help you get back up. Or, if you did something awesome in one of your classes, or just a life thing, they're there to celebrate you and just care about you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was also going to say, I think community is the people that you're surrounded by. And I think for this season, while we're all in college and we're all here at Malone, this is the community God has planted us in. And so I think it's really important to realize the blessing that is, and the opportunity we have to take part in such a special community. And I think that a lot of times when we recognize that we were chosen, the Lord, sent us here, and we're here for a purpose and for a reason. For these people, these specific, classes at this time, it reminds me of that verse in Esther, you were chosen for such a time as this. And I think that's a really special thing that we get to take part in, and I'm honored to be a part of that community. And I really think that other people are proud to be, a student of Malone, an alumnus of Malone, staff and faculty at Malone. And I think that's what really distinguishes our community here, is that we do recognize how special it is here. And that's, because of the Lord that we serve, and his hand on this campus.
So we know that there are too many that you can't necessarily pick one. But can you give a shout out to some faculty or staff member who has been special to you, and tell what they did that fed into your life? Oh, that was not written
I
down.
can think of so many.
I know.
I think of my department, the history department, and I think of Dr. Jackie Stuckey. She's someone that when I started out as nursing, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. And I was like, I met with someone over there with the history department because I thought I wanted to do teaching and do something with history because that was something I always loved was history. So when I got paired up with Dr. Stuckey as one of her advisees, it was just like an instant click because it was evident that she cared about me as a person and she wanted to see me succeed. And I think the same goes for the whole department there. I think they know all of us, but Dr. Stuckey was someone that was like, you can do this. You're going to be a great teacher. And when I told her that I wanted to be an RA, she's like, yes, do it. She goes, I'd be happy to shout you out. And, it was really cool because every time I go see her, it's like, I'm stepping into like her office seems like it's maybe like her living room. And it's like, hey, I'm proud of you. Keep doing this. Or there's times that she's like, you need to do better at this. And there's been times that, yeah. And she's been like, come on, you can do it. I know you can. So she's like a cheerleader and she's someone I look up to very much. And she's awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah, she's great.
She is.
I would like to shout out Jessica Schwartz in the nursing department. I don't even think she knows how much of an impact she's had on my education specifically. Jessie is one of the smartest people I think I've ever met. She's very detail-oriented, but also in almost every class, she somehow finds a way to connect her faith to nursing. So she's taught me pharmacology and pathophysiology 1 and 2 now. Those are some very difficult classes. And somehow she always wants to make sure we understand, but more importantly, that we're doing okay. She shares about her faith and she checks up on us. She tells us all the time that she's praying for us. And that is very encouraging as a student in the nursing program that's, it's known to be difficult, as it should be. And it's known to be very hard and taxing on students. And she always makes sure that she takes a minute to pause to check up on us. And it really just shows how much she cares for us. And I really appreciate that about her.
That's wonderful. I feel like you both have this sense of, I know where I'm going with what I'm being taught, and I know why I'm doing it. And in both cases, I don't want my nurses to mess up, and I don't want my teachers to mess up.
Right.
I mean, because what you're doing will matter. So talk to me a little bit about your future plans. You're going to be student teaching
It will be, yeah.
this spring
Correct.
in Louisville.
Correct.
Okay, so now I've told you your future plans, but go ahead and tell us other plans. What do you?
So I think that's a big part for me is, working on my professional development as a teacher. I think that's something that motivates me, and I think Malone's opened up those opportunities for me. I definitely know I'm going to get a teaching job. I'm not worried about that at all, and stay local. It's a big plan for me, and I think eventually I want to be a principal too.
Oh, okay, good.
And I think that, it's opened the door to that and just made me realize, that's something that I love and I'm very passionate about. So
That's wonderful. Teachers are close to my heart.
yeah.
Since I am one. And tell me about you. What are you hoping to do?
Yes. So hopefully, I'll graduate with my BSN and hopefully get my RN by passing the NCLEX. Right now, I'm actually a nurse's assistant in a neonatal intensive care unit. Wow. So the little sick babies. And I really think that God has gifted me a heart for that, for his most vulnerable, smallest human creation on earth. It just warms my heart talking about it. So the goal is to hopefully work on that unit as a RN, hopefully eventually get my certification in neonatal intensive care, And just this past year, I have had this realization. I do want to get a master's degree in nursing, and my mom has 2 master's degrees in nursing, 2 different alleys, I guess. And so that has inspired me to do the same. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be a nurse practitioner. I don't know if that's for me. And I just had this click recently, in the past few months, that I think I'm going to get my master's in nursing education and become a professor. And I'm telling you, that is literally because of all of the professors here that have poured into me. I look up to them a lot, and I want to be them. So I'm really excited for that and for this, newfound excitement that I've had. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. All right. If you're talking to middle school and high schoolers who are saying, I'm not sure where I want to go to school, why would you tell them to choose Malone?
I would say the people. I would say you can get an education anywhere, and there's going to be pros and cons anywhere you go. But I think Malone, you always know there's going to be people that are going to invest in you and care about you. It's funny, I had a conversation with a student that had just came in recently. He was like, well, I don't know if this is for me, but I was like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but look at all the people here that care about you. Look at all the people that want to invest in you and your future. And when you go to graduate and get a job, I know that's a long ways off when you're looking at colleges, but it goes fast. I've been here a little longer than most with 5 years, but, it goes by fast. And, I look at my advisor, Dr. Stuckey, it's people like that. It's people like Dr. Case and Dr. Walkus and Dr. Beer that will invest in you and, care about you and help you get all the tools in your toolbox that you need to succeed, and there's people in every department like that. There's people in the phys plant that care about you, and, I can guarantee you can go to any department on campus and someone there will talk to you, someone there cares about you, and even if they don't even know you that well. So it's definitely the people, and you get a good education when you're here too. So that's obviously important too.
It is.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, from an education standpoint, Malone has some top-notch programs. I think of the Zune Wildlife biology program. I think about the nursing program. Even things like, education and business. There's professors here that are experts in what they do and are teaching our students how to do that. And so I think that's a real testament of outcomes of graduates. I hear all the time that people look for Malone graduates because they know the quality that they will be because of the education we receive here. And so that's definitely a huge aspect of it. Education is an investment, and I think you would be making a fantastic investment by choosing Malone.
Wonderful. And I will say, and I'm not surprised after sitting with you guys to say this is still true, we don't only produce well-educated people, but we produce well-rounded people of faith who know how to do a job. So thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we will do this again sometime.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks again for joining us today for Pioneer Portraits. I hope you will pray for Malone University. Send us students. Come visit our campus and speak well of us. If you like what you hear, share this episode on your social media or tell a friend the old-fashioned way.